Insiders, welcome to this week's video. One major subject that we're going to go over today, and it's super simple, but it's really important, and that's why I decided to focus the entire video, keep it short and to the point, but make sure that we don't miss some of the critical pieces. And what we're talking about is we're talking about rescissions. Before we get into the technique piece of this, I need to revisit some strategy around rescissions that we have. First of all, as you saw in my email, you need to remember that the likelihood of your first buyer on a short sale actually being the buyer that closes is very low. And what I want to do, I want to emphasize that because it's really important that you wrap your head around that. I've said that multiple times, and I know agents, and I'm thinking of some specifically right now, who I know have heard me say that, and yet in their mind they haven't wrapped their head around and become okay with the fact that, hey, this first buyer may or may not close. And when that first buyer backs out, or they're getting antsy and they're looking like they're backing out, there's kind of this anxiety that builds up, and oh my god, I'm going to lose a buyer, I'm going to lose a buyer. Well, if you had been approaching your short sale from the beginning that this buyer is just starting the process and that you really need to be getting a second and or a third offer or more in the process, when that buyer starts to get antsy, not that you want to just push them away and say, hit the road, Jack, I don't care about you anymore, but if you have 2 or 3 backup offers, then you don't really care so much about that first buyer. And so there's less anxiety and less stress and less, oh my god, you guys have to get an approval soon or else we're going to lose this buyer. It's the first buyer. You're going to lose them. The likelihood is you're going to lose them. So chill out. And I'm not saying this to be disrespectful at all or to play down the emotion of having to lose a buyer. But you really need to grasp the concept and truly not just wrap your head around that, but be okay with it. It's going to make your life in short sales way easier. And really, if you can't get beyond the fact that you're going to lose a buyer or 2 in the short sale process, then you probably want to start referring those short sales to someone else, because ultimately you're just going to constantly be in this cycle of stress and anxiety about trying to keep this one buyer on. So if you're not getting 2, 3, or 4 offers on a single short sale property, then you're not marketing that properly. And so that should be a gauge for you. If you're not getting multiple offers, then you need to reapproach your concept and your strategy in marketing the property to get that. So our strategy and your strategy as we negotiate your short sales, when a rescission comes in, we don't let the bank know that. We don't cancel things out and start the process over. We let that process continue forward. Here's a really important piece. Even though we're letting that process continue forward, we need to know that there is a rescission that has taken place. Don't just let the buyer rescind and let us keep thinking that there's a buyer on the hook. And there's a couple reasons why. First of all, send us a copy of the rescission. Let us know, hey, this buyer rescinded. We're continuing to market the property to get another buyer. We're going to put that in our file, and we're going to change the status of this particular short sale. What we're going to do is we're going to keep it moving forward, but we're not going to be pushing and pushing hard. And this, it has happened before where agents have not let us know that there's a a rescission on their short sale. And because they didn't let us know that there was a rescission on their short sale, we're pushing and escalating and getting supervisors involved and getting FHA, for example, involved in an FHA file and moving it up the chain. And then we get close to the point of approval, and in just general conversation, or yeah, well, I hope we get a buyer by the time we get an approval, we're like, what? What do you mean? There's no buyer? Why are we pushing so hard on this? And there's actually a pitfall that you can fall into by pushing hard on a short sale that you don't even have a buyer for. It's better to just kind of let that slow wheel turn until another buyer comes on board, because depending on where you're at in the process, if you push and get a BPO, for example, when you don't even have a buyer anymore, it's just as bad as getting a BPO early in the process before you got a buyer in the first place. That property may not be worth what it was when the process started. And so it's better to, again, just let the process move slowly. Then when another buyer comes on, we can ramp it back up. So it's not just for us to be more efficient in our time and work the files that have buyers, though that's obviously a piece of it. The most important piece from your perspective is we don't want to push this file too fast, too quickly, because we start to lose face with our negotiators. If we're pushing and escalating a file and all of a sudden we have a rescission that was 3 weeks ago, because they're going to want to see that rescission at some point, and they're like, well, what in the heck were you guys doing pushing this thing up through the escalation channels when you didn't even have a buyer? It makes us look bad, and again, we lose face with the negotiators that we're asking to help us push things through when we actually do have buyers. So it puts all of us in a little bit of a weird situation. And ultimately, for you and your seller, it jeopardizes the short sale transaction if we push it too fast, too quickly. We want to be very strategic in how we approach the short sale, and this is an important piece that strategy is very much involved in. So if you have a buyer that rescinds their offer, we're not going to throw this thing on the back burner and not do anything with it. We literally continue to follow up every couple weeks to see where it's at, make sure they haven't closed it out, or make sure they're not asking for documentation. We're still working that file, but we're not pushing it, following it up every couple days, or escalating it to the supervisor, because we don't want to push it too fast. So make sure that when a rescission comes in from your buyers, that you let us know so that we can put it into a different strategy in the negotiation process, so that when a new buyer does come on board, then we're able to slip them right into the process and potentially make their wait period way shorter. This just recently happened where we had a buyer come on literally last week, and I believe the purchase contract was signed around on like last Friday, and so literally within 1 week we went from no offer to having a reapproved offer because of the fact that we got a buyer in place and we utilized our strategy. So that buyer's experience on this short sale and that buyer's agent experience is just phenomenal, because literally they went from pending third-party bank approval and then a week later actually having that third-party bank approval. So the strategy that we use is important, and of course that doesn't happen every time. Sometimes some lenders make you start over at the beginning of the process no matter what it is, if there's a new buyer. So utilize that strategy. Don't forget that Wednesday we have our short sale strategy session call. Be on that call. It's 1 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. Same number from the last month's call in. I'll send you that in an email. But I encourage you to be there. We're going to go over some strategy stuff, some changes that Countrywide has made that are very important to you in making sure that your short sales do actually close within the time frame allotted. So want as many of you to be on that call as possible. All right, have a great week, and continue to get those short sales. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.